Hello, let's go for a round of Vinyl Tag 2020. Okay, question number one is, let me get organized here. What is your best 2019 find? I've shown this a few times. One of my favorite jazz drummers, Shelly Manne and his Men at the Blackhawk, Volume 2. They released 4 volumes of this in the early 60s, recorded live. Excellent music and recordings on contemporary. Question number 2, favorite album of 2019. I believe I've only probably got maybe 5 albums that were recorded in 2019 that are current artists. So I have a small pickings there. This group I always like, Snarky Puppy, Immigrants. 2 albums. Snarky Puppy, jazz funk, rock fusion would be a good description. It's a double album. Sounds good. Question number 3, show a novelty album. A couple months ago, my neighbor Mary said she had a bunch of vinyl albums from her youth, and so she brought them over, and I looked through them and listened to them. A lot of them were a little shaky sound-wise, but this one sounded pretty good. So it is Bobby Bare and the Family, Singing in the Kitchen. There's Bobby and his family. This was probably released in middle 70s, I think. The musicians, well, Chet Atkins was a close friend of Bobby Bare, so he's on here. Most of these songs were written by Shel Silverstein, another friend. With Shel, he was a writer, poet, songwriter. He wrote a lot of songs you would know. Boy Named Sue, The Unicorn, which is on here. He did a lot of Dr. Hook songs, Cover the Rolling Stone, etc. So this album, and they have the kids singing the background vocals. If you got young kids or grandchildren, that's a very enjoyable album. Number 4, show a cover, an album that the cover pays homage to a previous album. This artist, he's one of my favorite. I will carefully bring it up here. That's a White Album. Yes, it is. But this was by Todd Rundgren, Faithful. The Beatles were some of Todd's favorite musicians, and in fact on this album he does a couple cover versions of Rain and Strawberry Fields, pretty much note for note, backwards, etc. Sounds fantastic. So this would be the White Album, Todd Rundgren. That's the actual inner sleeve, which was also white. Okay, number 5, show a B-side or a deep cut. I was looking through my 45s and I just pulled this one out. It's a good one. Creedence Clearwater Revival. Looking out my back door, and as long as I can see the light. Cool 45. Number 6, show something funky. Well, this is funky. I've got a couple albums by this group. It is the Delvin Lamar Organ Trio. This is live at KEXP Public Radio in Seattle. This was released 2018, I believe. Like I said, three-piece, soul, funk, in the style of Booker T with a little more funk. Great album. It's on Coal Mine Records. Next question. Number 7, Weird Shelf Buddies. My records, I have them categorized in a couple different ways. Some of my older rock records are alphabetical, and some of my jazz is by label. And then I do have a special section for 10-inch EPs, which I have about 20 of them. So these two EPs are next to each other. 1955, That Bad Eartha Kitt. A couple years later, this would be re-released as a 12-inch with the same cover and some additional tracks on the RCA Victor label. And beside Eartha is The Clash. Black Market Clash. 10-inch EP. This was probably released after the first two albums, I believe. Contains B-sides and A-sides from singles not on albums. If you ever want to delve a little bit deeper into the Clash discography, I would highly recommend this. Some of the earlier, punkier stuff, although they have reggae on here too. Good record though. Number 8, show an album that you saw the artist live in concert. Probably 12 or 13 years ago. I didn't see the Ben Folds 5. I saw Ben Folds though, with 2 other people. This particular album is the Complete Sessions at West 54th Street. This was a PBS series in the 90s, and they had live acts on there. So I saw them at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. A friend of mine, we went down together, and his son also went, and we had to leave the concert a little bit early because Jordan was performing. He had a gig uptown in Oxford that night, so we had to leave a little early. Number 9, show an album that is a repress, but you wish you had the original. Well, I love Blue Note. I have hardly any original Blue Notes, mostly represses, but so I could pick about anything. But this would be a good one to have. Dexter Gordon, Go. I love this album. I have a lot of Dexter Gordon, so that would definitely be a nice one to have as far as original. Number 10, show a group that you have the entire discography. This group I have the entire discography on vinyl. It is once again The Clash. I'm showing Sandinista because Sandinista never got as much love as it deserved. 3-record set. It's got like 36 songs on here. Fantastic. This would be another one to delve in if you're a Clash fan. Number 11, show a record with a unique label. This is, if I can get it out here, this is a very large label. It is a 16-inch transcription disc with a huge label and a very nice one. This is the March of Dimes, I think 1952. See the soldier there and the kid in the cowboy hat with probably has polio. Like I said, this is a 16-inch transcription disc. Before the wide use of tape, magnetic tape, a lot of record stations got a lot of their programming, you know, commercials, record shows, you know, stuff like that. They were on these very large transcription discs. This is vinyl, you know, and this is during the 50s and 60s, late 40s. So, and this has a couple cool notes on here. Like I said, it's for the March of Dimes. So you were supposed to broadcast this between March 2nd and the 31st only. And after that, you're supposed to throw away this disc. And this disc did play from the outside in. A lot of these 16-inch played from the inside out. So it's very cool. And it actually came in the original record sleeve. I bought that at a flea market a few years ago. Number 12, show a pre-band, maybe musician who was in a band before he became popular, maybe. I'm not going to answer that because I don't think I have anything like that. Number 13, show a book or movie / movie about music that you would recommend. As far as the book, I just got done with this. It is called Notes and Tones by Arthur Taylor. You may know him as Art Taylor, the jazz drummer. This is a series of interviews. He wanted to write a book. So during the late 60s and early 70s, he interviewed most of his jazz friends and musicians. And they're little shorter interviews that provide a really good insight because he knew these people. They felt comfortable with him and they would open up. Everybody's on here. Dexter Gordon, Miles Davis, Ornette Coleman, Johnny Griffin, Harold Garner, Dizzy, Sonny Rollins, Kenny Dorham, Art Blakey, Thelonious Monk, etc. So that's a good good book. As far as the movie, this is a DVD. I always loved the Beatles, and this is a really, really big shoe. It is the complete historic Ed Sullivan shows, starring the Beatles. 2 DVDs. So this has the first 4 Ed Sullivan shows that had the Beatles. And what's cool about this is it is the complete show in every instance, from the start, beginning with commercials, the commercials that were on the TV at the time. Very good. So February '64, the first week they were at the Ed Sullivan, well, now it's called the Ed Sullivan Theater in New York, live. The next week they went to Miami Beach and did the show from Miami Beach. Then the third week they went back to New York for their final Ed Sullivan show. And like I said, what's really cool about this is they have the entire show, so you're seeing all these acts that were whatever popular at the time, comedians and whatever. Really cool. For example, the first time the Beatles were on their first show, it wasn't the act after, it was like 2 acts after the Beatles' first appearance that night, was the Broadway cast from Oliver. So they had all the kids from Oliver singing a couple songs. Well, one of those kids was none other than Davy Jones, pre-Beatles, or pre-Monkees. Of course, Davy, he was a short guy, looked like a kid anyhow, and so he fit in well with these, with the rest of the kids. He was a very talented actor on stage, Broadway. Number 14, show an underrated album. Well, I talked about this a couple weeks ago. It's probably maybe my favorite rock album or whatever. Underrated, I would say it's probably unliked, maybe. A lot of people just do not like this album. I'm in the minority, probably. I love this album. I just picked this up a couple weeks ago. Music on Vinyl have been reissuing Todd Rundgren. This is A Wizard, a True Star. Now this does not have the original die cut. The original die cuts were a weird shape for the album. But this is numbered. I have number 243, I think out of 1,000, and it's on green vinyl. So I think it's underrated, but who knows. Number 15, show an artist that has a high batting average, meaning that he comes out with consistently high quality material. Now this is a jazz drummer, very good, Art Blakey. This particular album is Ugetsu, a live album at Birdland. I don't know if Art Blakey ever put out a bad record. If he did, I do not have it, and I have a lot of Art Blakey. So if you like Art Blakey, you could get probably just about any of his albums, and you would be happy. Number 16, show an album, two albums that it's the same album but different covers. I do not think I have anything that matches this, but I'll kind of twist that around just to show something. This one, middle 60s, 6 maybe. The Cannonball Adderley Quintet, Mercy, 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 live at the club on Capitol. And that's cool. Color or cover photo there. Now, a few years later, they would issue the best of Cannonball Adderley, which has the same photograph, actually. It's got this same photograph as the same on both of them. This was added on the best, so I'll show it side by side. So it's kind of odd that they used this same photograph for the best of. I don't know why, but whatever. Number 17, show an album that you bought cheap, but it's worth something. I don't have that many actual valuable records in my collection. The ones that I do have that are worth a little bit more, well, I paid a little bit more for them. The exception is this classical record on Deutsche Grammophon. It is Edith Pianemann, a German violinist. I think she might have been a prodigy, child prodigy. I think this was during the 70s maybe that this was released. Sounds excellent, sound quality. I bought it for $2 at an antique mall a few years ago. And every once in a while I check, and the price the reselling price is always consistently $85, $90 for this album. So I guess I got a good deal on that. Okay, we're rounding third and heading home. Number 18, show an album by your favorite drummer. I decided to go the jazz route here, and even in jazz, I like Art Blakey, but I like Shelly Manne too. Two different styles. Art Blakey was more instinctive, a harder hitter, whereas Shelly was a little lighter hitter and a lot more technique. This particular album, it is Jack Marshall and Shelly Manne, mid-60s, and this is it's just two guitar by Jack Marshall and percussion by Shelly Manne. Shelly plays all types of percussive instruments, and Jack Marshall does pretty much a Spanish acoustic guitar on here. It sounds gorgeous, it really does. Okay, the 19th question, turning 20, show an album that was released in 2000, sorry. I looked through my Discogs and my collection. I don't think I actually have an album from the year 2000. Sorry. So let's go to the last question. Show a trio of albums, a trilogy, which I believe they wanted 3 consecutive albums in somebody's discography. I think that's what the question was supposed to be. So, and I made a video on this probably a year and a half ago. It is Wayne Shorter's first 3 Blue Note albums. He recorded all 3 of these albums in 1964, in that year. So the first album for Blue Note was Night Dreamer. I always liked that cover. It's really kind of, you know, mysterious cover, and these albums sound mysterious. Now the second album by Wayne is Juju. Love this album. And the last album, recorded in '64, was Speak No Evil. This is a lot of people's favorite one, and it is excellent. Like I said, all 3 were recorded in the calendar year 1964, although the release dates were spread out. So the first one was released '64, the second '65, and the Speak No Evil in '66. So probably a span of a year and a half as far as release dates. So that is my vinyl tag for 2020. So hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you the next time. Later.